Hey, so I just got back from seeing Possessor and it was fantastic. I feel like, oh, it's the uncut version, by the way. Uh, I feel like I should go more into depth about my history with the behind the movie before I go into the review of the film itself. I've been a big fan of the director's dad for a while. Uh, Many film fans will know David Cronenberg. This is directed by his son, Brandon Cronenberg, whose previous film is Antiviral, which I also watched much before watching this. Like, I don't know, a couple months ago. Like, it was a really long time ago when I watched it. I don't remember a ton from it, but I remembered really, really liking it. And this one was even better. Uh, I remember definitely looking forward to what the director was going to do next and was ecstatic when I saw that this was what he was going to be working on next. Yeah. Uh, I don't know how. He's definitely a much different director than his dad. Uh, he's got this sort of like coldly calculated dissociative, like sleek modern take on sort of his dad's formula, but it still differentiates him from his father in like his own unique style that feels different from his dad, so that it's unmistakably his. uh when going to see the movie in the theater today, because it came out today, uh, there were only like three other people in the theater. I feel like everyone knew what we were getting into in that theater, but it was still the most I heard the audience react to the film, uh, to a film in the theater. The only other time I had heard an audience straight up react to a movie, like audibly, was in Infinity War when Tony Stark got stabbed. But here, it was like surprisingly frequent how much people were like audibly groaning and like gasping and like using like exclamations and stuff like that. Because this movie goes to like really shocking, dark, disturbing, violent places that are unexpected. It's not quite for everyone. Uh, I think me and my brother basically ended up on the same page, though. We both loved it. It's not for everyone, though. Uh, but if you like something that's like a little more unique and out there, this is definitely gonna fit the bill. Um, don't go in there expecting like a more action film because it's not really an action film, even though there's plenty of violence in there. Even though it takes a while to truly get there. Um, it's more of just like a sci-fi. I don't want to say horror because that feels like the wrong word. I guess like art house sci-fi thriller. I don't know. It's one of those movies that's hard to categorize, just like Antiviral was hard to categorize. All of Cronenberg's movies are hard to categorize. Even David Cronenberg's movies were hard to categorize. So it's only fitting. Like you never quite feel comfortable labeling any of them because it's never quite fitting into any category. I basically just like know that I loved it. It was gorgeously shot, and extremely well made. It was a very trippy movie. I love the super unique visuals that were like super impressive and just trippy and surreal. It was great. I had like a constant smile on my face throughout the movie. I wasn't expecting there to be humor in the movie, but there was, which helps offset like the very bleakness of the movie. When the end credits finally did happen, which kind of felt abrupt to me, Uh, Everyone in the audience gave the most audible reaction out of the entire film, and people had already been like groaning from the most violent images of the film earlier and like the most disturbing moments, but that was what garnered the biggest reaction. I'm sure everyone in that theater said I reacted somehow during that film just out of instinct from like seeing just such gnarly visuals. But yeah, if you're looking for something different, this is absolutely something that'll fit that bill. If you don't know what the movie's about, it's kind of like uh mind control uh assassination sort of situation without going too far into the details of the plot. But then there's also like very bizarre imagery also thrown in. It's definitely not like your typical movie that you would expect to see. Like, it's not your typical blockbuster popcorn movie. It's definitely for like the more cinephile type people. Like, if you're a fan of like this sort of area of sci-fi or art house, I feel like it would be easier to recommend it to, or for people that are constantly seeking out something more unique out of the filmmaking, out of the cinema watching experience. Because if you're looking for something more unique, the lead was in Mandy. She was the woman that played Mandy. So that's a good example of a movie that is like if you're looking for something else, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when I'm saying that you're looking for something else and you're looking to get something like that out of this. Because it's very much that type of movie where it's just something very different than what you're usually used to seeing. So you'll want to be prepared for that because if you're not, most people that aren't are probably not going to like it. Because it goes into some pretty weird directions and it's pretty visceral and graphic at times. Yeah, it's definitely not for the faint of heart, but it's highly recommended from me. It's one of the best movies of the year so far, I'd say. There hasn't been much competition, but still, this has actually been a really good year for movies if you've been willing to seek them all out. Uh, this movie, I think I'd give. I've been between an 8.5 out of 10 and 9 out of 10. I think I'll give it an 8.75 out of 10, though I could be swayed to a 9 out of 10. When I was talking with my brother, he swayed me to a 9 out of 10. But I feel like just to be safe, I'll do 8.75 out of 10. The main thing for me is that I can't quite decide if it's too long or too short. The pacing just felt a little odd to me, like the structuring of it. I liked that it was odd and felt wrong in how different it was, but there is just something about like how it ends so abruptly and how you're like never quite sure where you are in the story because it's so unpredictable where it's going from any given moment and you're never sure if this is the ending or if this is just the beginning at any given moment. Like, for example, when I thought I was at the ending, there was actually an hour left of the movie. And when I thought things were just now getting started, actually, now, it was actually the final scene of the film. Uh, well, not the final scene, but like a couple scenes left of the film. Uh, so it's like one of those movies where it's like really hard to grasp the where you're at, but it's very engaging and it's extremely entertaining. And yeah, it's a highly recommended movie for me. Yeah, definitely if you like weird movies, go see this one. Just be warned that it is very violent. Yeah, so if you're it is definitely pretty graphic, so just be warned about that. The movie was rated NR for a reason. But yeah, I really liked it. I'm trying to think if there's any other like things I should go into. Uh, I mentioned the cinematography being good. Uh, well, I was a little bit confused, story and character wise, how some of the plot points worked, especially towards the very end. Without going into spoilers, I was confused where the main character and the person she possessed, which she was doing and which he was doing, which I think is part of the point. Because it's like the line where she ends and he begins kind of blurs towards the third act, and it's kind of done on purpose. But it makes it kind of confusing in hindsight, like trying to figure out which things were him and which were her for the purpose of trying to figure out what their characters are like in hindsight. Because when I was talking to my brother, who also loved the movie, about it, he seemed to come away with the sense that her character was much more cold and calculated than I thought. Because I thought her character was just more traumatized by the things she did, and that she had just such a morbid fear of death that she was willing to do anything to stay alive. And ironically, the thrill of killing, we both agreed, was the one thing in life that made her happy, which ironically was the one thing she was afraid of experiencing herself, which is kind of oxymoronic. Um, yeah, I think that's all I can go into without going into spoilers. And since this movie came out today, I shouldn't go into anything more. But yeah, absolutely watch this movie if you're okay with going into something very different. Yeah, thanks for watching.